the first thing we're always doing is bringing the dirt into solution, correct?
Right.
Right? So it doesn't have to be anything too complex. All right, that would be one agitation, let's call it. 2 agitations. All right, now watch this, Lee, all right?
Yeah.
And then you just do like this, right? You come all the way down, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get to the bottom, you go like that, and you squeegee off the sill.
But why didn't you have your hand doing it?
Cool?
Yeah, got it.
Point is that's going to be very hard to replicate, right, and to easily train. So we're not going to do it that way.
Okay.
We're going to wet the window. You're going to take a towel and very simply just dry across the top. This is your wet towel. It's okay if that one gets wet. This one kind of stays dry for detailing. Dry off the squeegee blade. Use what's called a leading edge, right? So if I start this way, the water runs off the bottom.
Right.
Can you make water run uphill? By having the opposite edge, right?
Okay.
So you're using the squeegee to control the water. So if you have your leading edge so the water runs downhill, straight across, boring is sin, push it up against there. Do it again. Make sure that you have a little bit of overlap, straight across.
I can do that.
Really?
I think so.
All right, come on, dude. Yep. All right, cool. So now the next thing you're going to do,
Use my wet towel.
yep, across the top
And down the bottom.
and down the side. Yep,
The whole way?
sure. Okay.
Dirty.
Now dry the squeegee blade. You're left-handed.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
So come from this side, keep that leading edge a little in front on the top,
Yeah.
right? Just, yep. Dry the blade. Same thing.
And all this is how to teach an employee? Is that what the example's all about?
The example is how to teach somebody to get them cleaning.
Okay.
Because you know what? That may not be pretty. It might even be painful to watch for somebody that's cleaned windows for. But is his window is less clean than my window would be?
Is that scratches?
I mean, it literally, like I'm looking at Lee, dude, you did a pretty darn good job even without having gone to the last step yet, right? Of wiping the sill and drying around these edges. Like
So when you're done cleaning doing the squeegee, then you use your wet towel?
your wet towel, you'd wipe the sill,
You wait still.
right?
Yeah.
And then
Did
if
you
you
go up and do that one too?
only if it's not touching the, yeah,
window.
you don't want to touch the glass,
Right.
right? So then this towel you would just, if you needed to, run around your edges, right?
Right.
Not across maybe the bottom, just across the others.
Right.
But in all truth, the job you did looked pretty darn good from where I sat.
You're hired.
The point is not that this is how a person should clean windows, but the point is that in 3 minutes, you could clean a window that fast.
Right.
What could you do in an hour,
Right.
right? Because now the next step, and I'm just going to show you a couple of other steps before I have you do something else. All right? Now that you went this way, well, that gives you the feel of the leading edge this way, right? So, but your leading edge actually ends up going both directions. So I want you to get the feel of having your leading edge go this way. So do the same thing, right? But have your leading edge come across that way.
Right.
Because it's going to give you the feel. Don't do the whole window, right?
Yeah, you could do your wet.
Sure.
It's different. Huh?
See how it has the little bit different feel to it?
Yeah.
So once you would master that, then you start adding steps to it. So let's say once you've mastered it, let me get a little more water here. So you could then take and say, okay, why don't you come off this edge and go straight to the bottom, right? Or come off this edge, learn to do it both ways, right? Come off the edge, but now turn the corner. What you're doing is you're getting the feel for how you control the water with the squeegee. That you can control it straight across, but you can also then bring it to the bottom. You want to try those two?
Sure.
So you did fine. You cut in a little early up there.
Yeah.
No big deal. Take it all the way to the bottom.
Right.
Good. Then you can do the same thing the other way. By the way, as you're training people, what ends up being the best tool that they'll ever have?
Dry cloth?
In truth, it becomes their eyes. Because if you can train somebody in their eyes, they see the mistakes, right? Then they see that little swirl up there and they don't just walk away from it. It's easy to fix. But if you can't train their eyes, right, then they never saw it. So we're kind of, again, this is Accelr8, so we're doing this really fast. We're not giving you the time to really practice any of these things much.
That's okay.
But one of the things that a buddy of mine, Chris Cartwright, suggested, now you want to get the feel. You can already get a window clean, right?
Yeah.
Because you know that if you were having a bad day, right, this window is giving you a ton of trouble, it's in the sun, it's straight, you know that you can go straight across and you can get it clean so we can make customers happy and we can make money, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a little slower, but all right. So now your goal is not going to be to get the water to the bottom. Your goal is just to keep the water in the middle of the window. You're using, see how you're coming down, so
Yeah.
you're using the squeegee. But what you're learning to do is just control the water with the squeegee. By the way, in case anyone's wondering, while you're on tour, you don't always have dish soap, so this is hand soap. Notice how amazingly like dish soap it works. And just practice keeping it in the middle.
So what you do is you always keep your rubber on the edge.
Sure. Now, once you learn to do this, does it matter where you start in the window?
Not really, because then you can just kind of go up here if you need to.
You can do whatever you need to.
Right?
Wait till they screw you up with a wig wag.
What's a wig way?
See, now you left a streak, but what would you do with that streak? Just,
Use the dry cloth?
or you can come right on back up with the squeegee and catch it on the next pass, right?
Oh yeah, but then once it's dry, it's harder.
Okay, so what do you do? There you go. So you were getting the feel of the technique down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you always have the middle. Well,
You get a little bit there. Now let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If I gave you this set of tools for an hour, do you think you could get the feel down with that?
Yeah.
Probably with maybe not having hand soap, having real dish soap.
Yeah.
There are some advanced things that we could discuss as well, right? So I've seen guys, have you ever played basketball with somebody and they are a tremendous dribbler and they cross over right and left and you realize after about 4 minutes that you don't have to go anywhere because they're not going anywhere, they're just going right in front of you. And I've seen window cleaners take windows and they're really fast, right? So their technique, and they go, yeah, all the way down the window. And not realizing that using the width of the squeegee is the whole point. So if you kind of can learn to use the entire, length, you only take a few strokes to go down a window, and that saves you a ton of time. That's something that if we're teaching someone that's going to be fanning, then we go, hey, well, here's the point of it, right? To use the least number of strokes. But there's other things we can do too. So Henry Ford, in addition to being known for the car, used the assembly line, right? That was one of his big contributions. Do you ever use an assembly line mentality in the window cleaning? Where you can kind of take one person, say you had an unskilled worker, Perry was talking about earlier, and you get the unskilled guy wetting the window, you get the only skilled guy in the crew squeegeeing the glass, and then behind him you have the other unskilled worker, and he's wiping the sills and detailing, because those things, again, we already demonstrated you could learn in about 3 minutes, right? And all of a sudden you have one skilled, two unskilled, but they're working at pretty much the pace of almost 3 skilled workers, right? but they don't cost the same. They don't train the same, right? Even the equipment's different. It's just another way to think. Of course, if we are only by ourselves, we can still use the assembly line mentality, right? Because if I take this window and I wet one window, and then I squeegee one window and put my tools away, and then I get my towel out and I wipe this one sill, and then I get my other towel, and then I go to the next window, that means what? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times I'm going to get my towels off, put them away. I'm going to get my squeegee out, I'm going to put it away. Whereas if I squeegee all the windows off, and then I come back and wipe all the windows off, and then I come back and dry all the windows, I've cut a lot of that. It may be incremental on this one bank of windows, but thinking like that over the course of time and over the course of one day and over the course of a year can make you much faster and without having to work harder. Yeah, right. Without having to actually work harder, it just saves steps in the process.
Demonstrate it with your two squeegees,
So,
yeah.
you can see the difference in it. This is a taller window than it is wide, right?
Yeah.
So with the width, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3 strokes, right? Height 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the same thing you were doing, you'd only have to do it 3 times to go vertical.
There's also
And then what if you had your smaller squeegee?
Yeah, now if we use the smaller one, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's one more. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like one more each way. So 6.
there's also
vertical.
body movement.
Maybe for the film we want the pole.
Okay, we'll do the pull. Everybody want to see a pull? Come on, Lee.
No.
No. All right. Let's see if you remember all the steps now.
So now I'm pulling down, is what you're
Yep.
saying? Okay. If I'm pulling down, it's still going to be...
Yeah.
I want my leading edge going
Yep.
this way, kind of.
Because that way you control where the water goes.
Right.
How much did he overlap? Okay, good.
Wow. Is that okay?
Nope.
That was easy answer.
So when you come down here, okay, that works. And so what you would then do,
Yeah.
there's a number of ways you can do that. When you have like a little blip like that,
Yeah.
go ahead and dry the sill. Now you can totally go back and redo it, or if it's not too big a deal,
Take
that's
your
why
back up.
that's why you keep this dry, right?
Right.
If you keep it dry, if you don't see it, it ain't there.
Wet wipe, dry wipe.
So,
Still wet on the glass, you know.
the
Oh,
last-
see, you left a drip here. It dripped back on.
Yeah, because you shook the
Completely,
squeegee.
completely gone. If this was wet, what would happen?
Yeah,
Be a big
smear it.
smeary mess, right?
Yeah.
Now you know why this is always stays dry.
Right, and this one's always wet.
Mhm.
Now, in the end here, there was like 4 inches or so.
Right.
But the squeegee's like 12, I guess, right?
As long as it's wet enough, it's not a problem. If you may not want to dry the entire squeegee blade on the last stroke on that type
Okay.
of situation.
Because then it keeps...
'Cause it would wanna
most
hop.
of it's... Because it was harder
Yeah.
to
Then
pull
you
down.
can use the leading edge to push the water along the squeegee blade
Mhm.
anyway. So once you're down a little bit full,
Right.
you can push it out.
Right.
hmm So there's a lot more that if we were going to train you to be our employee, right?
Yeah.
That we're going to sit down and this isn't going to be a 15-minute segment of a training class. But the point
I'm
is,
just going to use this to train all my guys.
well, you can.
What about, good, I'm sorry, what about high windows and low windows? Do you use poles or ladders?
That's a good question. So it depends on the setting, right? In a commercial setting where the quality of the work is reflected in the driving force of the customer, which is often the bottom line, right? Like in a storefront, I've never used anything but a pole for the most part, unless there was some sort of wide ledge that was really a nuisance to work over. In a residential setting, maybe I might use a ladder, or I might use a combination of the two. I mean, you can use a pole off of a, I've used a step ladder. Let's say the window over the front door in the living room where they have the taller windows. Sometimes you can reach the bottom half of it from a step ladder safely, but you can't reach the top. You can use a pole, right, and kind of wet, and then you can kind of take your pole. This is a really short pole, right? But you can kind of work it across and come down, right? Come over here, work it across, come down, come up here, down, up here, down. You're doing the same thing you typically would do, right? With a, if it was in your hands, but you get it down to the level where you can reach. If you work in houses long enough and you're lazy like me, and you don't like to pull your extension ladder out and carry it into someone's house unless you absolutely have to, then you find ways to do things, and carrying a step ladder in is much, much, much easier. The point is not that this is how you have to do it. This is not the way to train people. The point is, you know, we sometimes hold ourselves back in a business and we realize, man, I want to hire somebody, but it's like I can't get, like, where do I get somebody that can do what we're doing? And we're just trying to help us appreciate that it doesn't have to be complicated. Like, it can be simple. It can be something that we could train quickly to get somebody not taking 1 to 3 months to start making us money. Like, I need somebody making money in a week, you know, in 2 days. Like, why should we have to wait that long? Let's figure out some ways to get to where we're at least break even day one, and then we should start seeing a return on that very quickly. Now, they'll get faster, and we'll pay them more. I always tell people, as you know, as you bring more to the table, then we can pay you more, and that's perfect. But we can't be handcuffed by not being able to get people up to speed.